When we think of Greek heroes, we tend to picture demigods wielding superhuman strength. But the king of Ithaca survived the ancient world using his mind. Odysseus was, above all, a brilliant strategist. His crowning achievement happened on the battlefield of Troy. After a brutal, decade-long siege that left the Greek army exhausted, Odysseus devised a plan to hide elite soldiers inside a massive wooden horse, tricking the Trojans into bringing their own destruction directly through the city gates. This is an ancient Greek pottery piece depicting Odysseus tied to the mast of his ship, surrounded by bird-like sirens. It highlights how, for millennia, his journey home has been defined by high fantasy encounters with literal monsters and meddling gods. Traditional interpretations often feature gods delivering the tools for survival, like Hermes providing the counterspell for a witch's potion. In a world without those divine gifts, every escape must rely on the protagonist's ability to improvise, using only the materials he finds in the environment around him. A story driven by human intellect requires real-world consequences. When omnipotent gods dictate the outcome, the physical stakes evaporate, leaving the hero with very little actual problem-solving to do. For his $250 million adaptation releasing in 2026, director Christopher Nolan chose to bypass those mythological crutches entirely. He approached the source material as if it were a factual historical event taking place during the Bronze Age, rather than a fairy tale. That meant eliminating the supernatural. You won't find glowing deities appearing in the sky to offer convenient solutions or hand out magical weapons. Stripping those elements away creates a massive void in the narrative. Without a god to save him, the protagonist relies strictly on his own raw grit and strategic thinking to survive the journey. To replace literal divine intervention, the production relied on a concept Nolan calls tactile realism. Instead of animating characters on Mount Olympus, the film channels their supposed wrath through overwhelming natural phenomena. A sudden, violent ocean storm becomes the physical manifestation of Poseidon's anger. Grounding the myth in reality required a matching physical commitment from the cast, specifically Matt Damon, who stepped into the role of Odysseus. He subjected himself to a highly restricted, gluten-free diet and an intense training regimen, dropping his weight to 167 pounds to build a lean, weathered physique. Anchoring mythological forces in real-world physics meant the protagonist had to look like a man genuinely battered by the elements, carrying the visible physical toll of years spent stranded at sea. That physical authenticity extended to extreme logistics, requiring shooting across rugged locations in 6 different countries. This image displays the Trojan Horse, a modern Viking-style longship. Rather than relying on a soundstage water tank for the bulk of the film, the crew sailed this massive wooden vessel out onto the open ocean for practical maritime sequences. Filming in chaotic, saltwater environments presents a severe technical hurdle, especially when capturing action on heavy, mechanical, large-format equipment. This is an IMAX 70mm motion picture camera. The production team utilized newly manufactured, lighter and quieter versions of this camera to roll through more than 2 million feet of physical film stock. The art department maintained this strict adherence to reality by tossing out standard fantasy tropes and consulting the fragmentary archaeological records of the ancient Mediterranean. Take a look at this ancient piece of oxidized bronze body armor. The costume designers referenced authentic historical artifacts like this to forge the film's weaponry and armor out of actual blackened bronze, sulfur, and silver. Every logistical constraint and material choice was engineered to pull the narrative out of fantasy, forcing it to exist in absolute, unforgiving physical reality. By combining practical ships, highly remote filming locations, and unpredictable weather, the production captures the genuine atmospheric terror of the ancient world. This is a view of the black sand beaches and jagged rock formations found in Iceland. Locations like this simulate the perilous, unmapped edges of the world. Placing a human against this vast, desolate terrain highlights their physical vulnerability. Stripping away the supernatural influence places the protagonist in a state of constant, unmitigated exposure to his surroundings. Every interaction with the landscape becomes a survival test against the mechanics of the natural world. Nolan's adaptation highlights the specific mental resilience of a human being who survives using strategy alone. It is a study of a protagonist who overcomes his environment through ingenuity and a refusal to die.